Act 1. The World on the Brink. 002 Let me take you back to 1453. Europe was fractured, a patchwork quilt of feuding kingdoms. In the east stood Constantinople, the mighty jewel of the Byzantine Empire, a city that for over 1,000 years had been the bulwark of Christendom against the rising forces of Islam. It wasn't just a city, it was a symbol of resistance, of faith, of unparalleled culture. Founded as Byzantium in the ancient Greek era, reborn as Constantinople under the Roman Emperor Constantine the Great, it stood tall as the seat of the Eastern Roman, or Byzantine, Empire. By the 15th century, though, Constantinople was a ghost of its former self. The Byzantine Empire had shrunk to little more than the city and a few surrounding territories. Yet even in its diminished state, Constantinople had an aura of invincibility. Its massive walls, known as the Theodosian Walls, had deflected invaders for centuries. The city was also located at the strategic axis of Europe and Asia, commanding maritime trade routes through the Bosporus Strait. Whoever held Constantinople controlled the entry to the Black Sea from the Mediterranean. But south, in Anatolia, a storm was coming. The Ottoman Empire and its young and ambitious ruler, Sultan Mehmed II, known as Mehmed the Conqueror, were determined to achieve what had eluded armies for centuries: the capture of Constantinople. The ambition wasn't merely territorial. For the Ottomans, this was a quest to become the definitive power in the Eastern Mediterranean and beyond. Mehmed knew that seizing Constantinople would unite his empire geographically, economically, and spiritually. The stakes: absolute dominance. The Byzantine Emperor Constantine XI and the dwindling population of Constantinople looked out at the horizon with foreboding. Their city was a relic of a bygone age, but it was all they had, a last stand of the Roman legacy against the storm of Ottoman expansion. Act 2. The Event Horizon. 300 Kod. In the early hours of April 6, 1453, the siege began. Mehmed's army was massive, with numbers ranging from 60,000 to 80,000 soldiers, archers, infantry, janissaries, and cavalry. The Byzantines, just 7,000 defenders, including a smattering of Genoese allies. The scales seemed impossibly tilted. But Mehmed had a secret weapon, an innovation that would shatter the old paradigms of medieval warfare. Enter Orban, a Hungarian cannon maker hired by the Sultan. He had constructed a massive superweapon, the Great Turkish Bombard. Measuring over 8 meters in length, this cannon could hurl massive stone balls weighing hundreds of kilograms at the walls of Constantinople. The city's defenders had never faced anything like it. For weeks, the bombards pounded Constantinople's walls, chunks falling away like plaster. Yet the defenders resisted doggedly. They repaired the walls by night and manned them tirelessly by day. Key moments unfolded throughout the siege, like a deadly chess match. The Byzantines employed Greek fire, a flammable liquid weapon that terrified Ottoman sailors trying to breach the city by sea. The Ottomans built siege towers and tunnels, hoping to pierce the city's defenses from underground. Both sides were locked in a brutal stalemate. But by late May, the writing was on the wall. Literally. The bombards had carved gaping holes in the Theodosian walls. Desperation filled the streets of Constantinople. The defenders braced for the inevitable, but they held their ground through grit and faith. Act 3. The Immediate Aftermath. 5:30. On May 29, 1453, Constantinople fell. Ottoman forces breached the walls, and chaos reigned within the city. What followed was horror, looting, chaos, and the collapse of a 1,000-year-old empire. Constantinople, once the beacon of Christian power in the East, was now under Ottoman rule. Emperor Constantine XI fell in battle, his body reportedly lost among the slain. The city's churches, its sanctuaries of faith and knowledge, were either desecrated or converted to mosques. Most notable among these was the Hagia Sophia, the epitome of Byzantine architecture, which Sultan Mehmed would transform into the Grand Mosque of his empire. Meanwhile, the world watched in shock. The fall of Constantinople was not just the end of the Byzantine Empire, it was the end of an era. Europe recoiled as the Ottomans now stood menacingly close to the gates of Central Europe. For the Catholic West, it was viewed as divine punishment for allowing centuries of schisms and internal strife to weaken Christendom. Act 4. A New World Forged. 530, Nine Quoc. So what happened in the decades and centuries after the fall of Constantinople? It created ripples that reached far and wide, reshaping global geopolitics, culture, and technology. The immediate result was the expansion of the Ottoman Empire. Sultan Mehmed didn't just rest on the laurels of capturing Constantinople. He declared it the new capital of his empire and renamed it Istanbul, symbolizing the union of East and West under Islam. The Ottoman Empire became a superpower, dominating the Mediterranean for centuries. But the fall also had unintended consequences. Many Greek scholars, fleeing the Ottomans, made their way to Italy and other parts of Western Europe. They brought with them ancient manuscripts and vast knowledge of classical Greek and Roman culture. Their arrival is considered a key trigger of the Renaissance, the rebirth of art, science, and philosophy in Europe. Without the fall of Constantinople, figures like Leonardo da Vinci or Michelangelo may not have had the spark that ignited their genius. The event also disrupted traditional trade routes. The Silk Road was now under Ottoman control, forcing European powers like Portugal and Spain to look for alternative ways to access the riches of the East. This urgency set the stage for the Age of Exploration. Columbus's voyage in 1492 was not just about discovery. It was a direct reaction to the geopolitical shifts caused by the fall of Constantinople. The fall wasn't just a historical milestone. It was a turning point that paved the way for the modern world. Act 5. The Verdict of History. 9 Quoc, 10 Quoc. Now let's pause for a moment. Think about how one event reshaped our world in ways few could have imagined. Politically, culturally, and economically, the fall of Constantinople stands as a defining moment in history. But what truly makes it remarkable is its paradox. What seemed like a catastrophic loss for Christendom ultimately catalyzed the Renaissance and the Age of Exploration. From the siege emerged Mehmed the Conqueror's empire, which united peoples and cultures, creating one of history's great civilizations, the Ottoman Empire. And so, the fall of Constantinople wasn't just the end of the Middle Ages, it was the beginning of a new age, an age of discovery, rediscovery, and transformation. Truly, a moment that changed the world forever. As the echoes of cannon fire faded away in 1453, little did anyone know that they would reverberate through history, shaping the destiny of nations and the future of humanity. Ensure the expanded voiceover is even more entertaining, but that it maintains the same style, tone, and key points as the original.